And here is video number 2. This one's regarding New Zealand and Australia, who are very closely linked to the UK. The king in the UK, King Charles, our king, is also their sovereign when it comes over there. I mean, in terms of actual any real legal justification or power, he has literally nothing. It's more like a token thing, more traditional thing. But they have close, I mean, they've always had that kind of close ties. So New Zealand and Australia kind of turning around and almost siding with the CMA is no real surprise, but it's not as bleak as people assume, and there is like some cool bits of information here in regards to some documents. So I just wanted to go through them, break them down, and hopefully by the end of this video we can come to a conclusion that honestly this isn't as big of a deal as people are making it out. Or is it? We'll soon find out. But one thing we definitely could find out is whether you're going to sub or not. And if you do sub, I'll be very grateful. We are trying to hit 1,000 subs so we can get partnered with YouTube. So the sooner we can get it done, the better. Thanks so much. If you're enjoying the content and enjoying the delivery, which I hope you are, especially with the number of people coming back, and if half of you actually subscribe, we would be well over 1,000. In fact, we'd probably be hitting about 2,000-3,000. So if you are returning, do consider dropping a sub. It doesn't cost you anything, but it does mean the world to me, and it does help me get partnered on YouTube. Right, on with the video. So we have Tech Noir VR here saying, latest on the Microsoft and ABK deal. New Zealand are requesting additional info to be submitted by interested parties, which is normal, by the way. They are legally allowed, although with New Zealand, they have actually missed their deadline. So from my understanding, the fact that they've actually missed their deadline means that they can completely be ignored. However, New Zealand regulators appear to be agreeing with the CMA. As I was saying, there's no real surprise there. On market definition regarding cloud gaming, which I totally disagree. Cloud gaming is not a separate market. It is a distinction market. I totally disagree with that. I believe cloud gaming is pretty much an extension of gaming in itself. I don't think of cloud gaming as a separate entity. But we have some of these documents here, which I've opened up here, so we can just go through them. There's a bit to get through, so let's get going. The concerns we are testing. So this is the concerns of the parties. The parties are competitors in video game development, publishing, and video game distribution. However, we consider that the proposed acquisition is unlikely to result in horizontal effects in any relevant market, as there will remain several well-resourced competitors, and emerging parties do not appear to be each other's closest competitor. So what does this mean? This basically means is we have no issue with Microsoft buying Activision in fear that that will impact Sony in any way, shape, or form. They just don't believe that, and so they're dismissing that straight away. At this stage, the focus of our investigation is whether the proposed acquisition is likely to substantially lessen competition due to the vertical effects in the distribution of video games for cloud gaming services. I mean, cloud gaming has been around for how long? How has this not been an issue? And the moment this acquisition tries to go through, everyone is talking about cloud. Like, why wasn't anyone trying to protect Stadia when everyone was abusing them with their cloud services? We are concerned that these effects may arise as a result of merged entity, either partially or fully foreclosing its rivals in cloud gaming, such as Sony or Nvidia, from accessing certain Activision content, and in particular the game Call of Duty. You know, at this point, Microsoft should just literally divest Call of Duty, make it its own entity, still own Call of Duty, give it its own profit and loss. Just give DICE and not DICE, sorry, I think it's Treyarch, and just give them their own little PLC, right, or LTD, and just let them funnel that money back to Microsoft. Because honestly, the reliance on Call of Duty at the moment, I mean, they're killing their own game franchise at the moment, right? With the way that they are deciding, with the way they decided to go down the Bud Light route, they're killing their own franchise right now. If you check out their Twitter right now, it's complete shambles. No one is playing the game either. Their numbers have dropped down by over 70% on Twitch. It's, yeah, to the detriment of competition in cloud. And if that continues, Call of Duty, I mean, if they continue to boycott Call of Duty the way they're doing and more people jump on a bandwagon, even the notion of Call of Duty is going to be a pointless one. And then honestly, this still might not even be good for Microsoft in the end. We are also continuing to consider whether the proposed transactions would substantially lessen competition due to merged entity, either partially or fully foreclosing its rivals in gaming consoles, in particular Sony, from accessing certain Activision content to the detriment of competition in the supply of video game consoles. Okay, so what this number 7 and what they're saying over here in 6.1 is that after the 10-year deal, even though Microsoft is saying that we will never remove games off the cloud or ever remove games off GeForce Now or from the PlayStation console, they can do it if they want to. And that is the concern. So this is more of a console and a platform concern. I'm surprised they don't include Nintendo in this, but this one is a legitimate concern, right? Because Microsoft can do that. Microsoft can actually go and remove the games from Sony after 10 years. They can turn around and say, hey, Sony, look, your 10-year license is up. Sony's going to come along and say, hey, here's another $2 billion for that deal that you promised us for another 10 years. And Microsoft can say, sorry, buddy, that was for a 10-year one-time deal. These are mine now. And there is nothing anyone can do about it once it's purchased. Now, there can be remedies in place where this would be a rolling contract indefinitely until PlayStation as a brand stops being developed. So that sort of thing can probably be done. Maybe. If Activision's game titles are sufficiently important to driving sales of cloud gaming services or video game consoles, then this could result in the merged entity having both incentive and ability to foreclose rivals' access to this content, weakening their ability to compete. See, I agree with this, but at the same time, Sony is actively doing this every single chance they get. So for anyone else to be actively saying this, and I know publishers are different to individual contracts, but the principle is the same. The principle is the same. There are many, many games that are actively blocked onto the Xbox platform because Sony paid them to do that. And so therefore, though what they're saying here is correct, it can't be okay for one and not the other. It's that simple. We are considering whether the merged entity would have the ability to incentivize foreclose for its rivals or potential risks. In cloud gaming, by refusing to license Activision content to them in New Zealand, or in video game consoles by making all or certain Activision content available exclusively on Xbox or Game Pass, or degrading the quality of Activision content on rival consoles. Now, this one over here, 9.2, they've already said that all games will be parity. You know, on parity, no games will be different. Maybe the Switch one will slightly be different because of its low-powered nature. As for this one over here, refusing to license Activision content, all they need to do is offer them a 10-year deal, and that is done. Whether the merged entity would have the incentive to foreclose rivals in video game consoles will depend on the interplay of several factors. On one hand, if the merged entity pursues the strategy set out in 9.2, some users may switch from one console to access Activision content. No, they won't. Almost no one will. The merged entity would earn revenues from these Xbox consoles sales and also on Xbox game purchases, as the merged entity earns a fee for games distributed on the Xbox store. Well, yeah, that's how it works. If Sony put a game onto Xbox, MLB Baseball, when people buy that game, Sony gets a cut. That's how it works. That's business. That's how the stores work. Stupid. Digital video game distribution. Microsoft considers that there is a single global market for digital video game distribution. This is because it considers digital distribution providers gamers with immediate access to games, which cannot be lost or destroyed in comparison to accessibility and storage of physical disks. And the same digital distribution, blah, 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 because this yellow circle there is horrendously bad, available anywhere in the world without all the restrictions, and the same video game publishers compete across all major regions. It notes that Microsoft ZeniMax, the European Commission, considers a market for video gaming distribution and left open the question of whether the market should be further segmented to physical digital distribution. So what they're saying is the market definition at the moment is video game distribution as a whole. You buy the game either digitally, physically, or through the cloud. It's a delivery mechanism to playing games. It's one market. Now what they're saying is, what if we split it all up? Physical and digital distribution channels, so that's one. Platform, console, PC, mobile as a delivery. Payment model, upfront payments versus subscription. Access method, download versus streaming. This is crazy, right? Our current view. At this stage, we consider it appropriate to consider digital video game distribution separately from physical distribution in this case. We understand that the use of physical games in consoles is declining, and indeed the merging parties are not active in physical distribution and instead use third-party distributors in New Zealand. So what they're basically concerned about is that New Zealand is going to be left behind or ignored or put into a position where they're going to be unfairly treated if things go south and they don't have the infrastructure to compete. These distributors are usually bricks and mortar retailers. The degree to which physical distribution is likely to compete with digital distribution, therefore, appears to be growing weaker, and we expect this to continue over time. Physical will go out the door. Simple as that. It's a no-brainer. We are continuing to consider whether digital distribution markets should be further segmented, and they continue to break it down even more. I mean, it's bonkers. Providers, the supply of cloud gaming services. Now, this is just talking about supply of, but the important one is here. As noted above, cloud gaming is still developing, particularly in New Zealand. We are considering how this form of gaming may develop in New Zealand and the extent to which cloud gaming services would be constrained by console and PC gaming, and vice versa, and how this constraint may change over time. For example, are consoles likely to become unnecessary over time as high-speed internet becomes ubiquitous? At this stage, we consider that is appropriate to define a separate market for cloud gaming, as this best isolates the competition issues that may arise as a result of the proposed acquisition. We seek submissions on this issue. So what they're saying basically there is that they want reassurances and a better explanation as to how, one, this is a separate market, and according to Microsoft and most people with common sense, it is the same market. I'm saying common sense because anyone that says this is a separate market is wrong, in my opinion. I'm not just saying this because of the ABK deal. I just genuinely believe cloud gaming is just another form of delivery that is the same as putting the disc in and playing the game. It's just, instead of putting the disc in or downloading the game, you're playing it through the cloud. I mean, what's the difference between playing the game digitally downloaded onto your hard drive or playing it through the cloud? Just one is done through streaming and the other one is done through. You don't, on either one, own a physical entity to actually play, to say that it's yours. So, other than a license, right? But in the case of bring your own game, like the NVIDIA GeForce Now, you still own that digital disc. You're still owning that digital license. It's still yours. So what's the difference? It's just a delivery method. But they say at this stage we considered it an appropriate definition market, and they want Microsoft and Activision to basically provide them with remedies, essentially, to basically say, hey, look, we know you're concerned. Here are the remedies we've offered the EU. We're providing you with 10-year contracts, so that, the cloud companies in your region will also have these games guaranteed for the next 10 years. That is what they're saying. Now, the previous question as to what will happen after 10 years, that is a legitimate question, one that I guess we won't have the answer to until that time comes after 10 years, if this deal does go through. Now, we have here the summary of our preliminary views of relevant markets. Our preliminary view is that the following markets are likely to be relevant to our assessment of the proposed acquisition: the distribution of digital video games on mobile devices, distribution of digital video games for PC console, the supply of cloud gaming services, and video game consoles. Now, consoles are, I'd say over the next 10-15 years, going to diminish to the point where they will be few and far between. And I do think that cloud gaming will start to emerge. It could totally bomb as well, so there is that. There is always that, but I think cloud gaming is here to stay, and I think as the technology expands and as more regions around the world get fiber internet and are able to basically play cloud gaming with ease, the reliance on a console will be less and less. And as someone that uses GeForce Now a lot right now, I actually use it way more than native gaming, I can tell you that the latency that I get is almost non-existent. I should tell you just how good it is. But as it stands right now, all the Australians and New Zealanders are looking for is reassurances and clarifications as to what this means for them, what impacts it will have for them. And as long as Microsoft and Activision can provide them with the remedies that will satisfy their, their fears, I guess, because they don't want to be left behind. They do want to have a say. Even though New Zealand is actually late, they've missed their deadline. So I'm not sure how much sway they can actually have. And the fact that they also are raising this probably has something to do with the CMA as well, because of their ties with the UK. So it wasn't surprising that this is actually coming from these ones as well. But in terms of the cloud gaming being a separate market, I don't agree with that. Let me know in the comment section below if you do agree with that, if it is a separate market or if it's not. But I feel like what they're essentially asking here is for them to not be ignored. Everyone else has been offered a 10-year contract or whatever it is. They want one too, so they can turn around and say, right, at least for the next 10 years, we are guaranteed to get over the cloud Activision games, Blizzard games, Microsoft games. We're going to get the whole lot here as well. And there's nothing, we are guaranteed that for the next 10 years. And then we can reassess that after 10 years to decide what we're actually going to do. That's what I think they're looking for. And then honestly, if they are not arrogant and not unreasonable and irrational to the point where they are saying we want this and that and we want to, we want you to provide us with this information and that information, but then turn around and say, but we're not going to speak to you, we're not going to let you speak to us, we're not going to have this conversation with you. If they're going to go down that route, then there's a problem. But it doesn't look like they want that at all. What they're saying here is we want to sit down and we want to come to an agreement. We want to be heard and we want assurances that these games and these services will not be excluded in New Zealand and Australia, and also that there will be other companies and other platforms and other publishers, of cloud gaming that will have access to these games, not just xCloud from Microsoft, which is essentially what the issue is here, because they don't want Microsoft to be in a position where they control all the companies, video game companies, right? And Activision Blizzard is a big one, even if I have actually played none of their games. I can't, be blind to the fact that they make games that hundreds and thousands of and millions of people play. So that's it. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. The hearing is on the 22nd, I believe, the day launch of Final Fantasy 16. So I will probably have a video for that up as well. I know that's got nothing to do with this hearing, but my last video on 16 was good, so I'll give like a proper first impressions of the final product, especially the frame rate, because that was an issue. But yeah, I'll keep you all informed on the actual ABK, and hopefully on the 22nd we'll have more news and more information, and we'll get a better insight into what is going on with that whole thing. And that's it. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Like I said, it really does mean the world to me. I really am trying to hit 1,000 subs. And if half of you subscribe, considering over 80% are not subscribed, if half of you subscribe, I would hit that goal and you would make me a very, very happy person. I mean, just by these last 2 videos, if half of you subscribe, by the time I wake up and see my channel, I would have 1,000 subs. How cool would that be? Right, that's it. Remain legend.